Have you heard of the KUR-World project, as in KUR-World project? We have talked about it here on ABC Far North on more than one occasion. It's a proposed $640 million eco-resort, and as I say, it's proposed for a property outside of Kuranda, and it would be the biggest single tourism development ever undertaken in Far North Queensland if it was to go ahead. It is a state-coordinated project, and they are putting together an environmental impact statement, and in the past, we have had discussions that have raised concerns about work that's already gone on the property, and the fact that there's also a highly endangered tree frog that makes its home in that location, and there are concerns for its habitat as well. So over the weekend, there was an open day. That's right, an open day essentially inviting residents who had concerns to tour the proposed site. CATHY Retterer is from the Envirocare organisation at Mola. She was one of those who was accepted, I should say, that offer and went to have a look. She joins us now to take us through what happened on the weekend. CATHY Retterer, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Kia.
Can you take us back to Saturday and just describe what happened first, please?
Well, people were required to register, actually, for the open day and were picked up by bus at the local high school car park and taken up to the site. There's a shuttle bus running there. So we got a guided walk and talk, first of all to the dam, which there's been a lot of controversy about in the community. A huge amount of public pressure was put on to actually get this dam done correctly after the face of the poorly constructed one gave way to some extent and put a lot of sediment down one of the tributaries, one of the dry gullies of the Owen Creek catchment. But the dam's been done very well. It's now to Australian standards, which is fabulous. But it's not been without a lot of pressure, especially on the council, to do the job that they should have been doing right from the start.
All right, so you got to see that. What about other sections of the sites, Cathy?
Yes. So we got to see the organic farm as well. So there's a sort of an amphitheatre of terraces being created behind the house. So the dam is located quite close to the house. You can certainly see it from the around under the veranda of the house. And the organic farm is sort of round behind. It's looking good. They've had a group called Organic Motion there, and they've done a great job in planting it up. It's the amount of food that there's in there after only 6 months of work is a real testament to their skill and knowledge on how to actually do a food garden, really. I did comment on the fact that they didn't seem to have any bush turkeys that had found it yet, because I felt that might be the next thing that might happen. But it was producing a lot of food, and they're actually putting that through one of the local markets here in Siwa.
Now, one of the other concerns, and I did raise it in the introduction because I've discussed it with yourself and others from other organisations, and that is to do with the habitat of that particular frog in that location and the fact that habitat is threatened. Were there, or are there still concerns regarding that, and were those concerns addressed at all during Saturday's discussions?
Well, here the major problem with that end of the block, which is the area around the house, is intended to have some quite high-density residential, according to the master plan. And with residences comes a lot of stormwater runoff, and that impacts on creeks and would impact on the quality of the water, both for the residents who live downstream, who take their water from Owen Creek, and also, as it happens, it would affect the habitat of breeding habitat for the frogs as well. As I say, there's already sediment in one of the gullies there directly below the dam from the poorly constructed one. Of course, the other thing is that this was also and is also cassowary country, and so there have been sightings of cassowaries outside of this block. And it's interesting that they've occurred. We haven't seen cassowaries around for quite a number of years in this area, and then suddenly we get two recordings, once the clearing of the 100 or so hectares had occurred. But I just want to say, Kia, the other thing is we got a very excellent talk on the water quality monitoring that KUR-World have put in place, and apparently council also have people coming up checking the water quality. There was a shuttle bus there for people to go back from the site because it was a 4-hour visit. There was a barbecue on, which was really nice. But initially people thought that they were going to have to be there for the 4 hours because there was no mention that the bus would shuttle people back. We, in fact, even left a car near the site so that if we'd had enough, and we wanted to go, we would just walk off the site. So that was a bit of a shame because I know people who didn't go because they thought they were going to be there for the 4 hours. Yeah, so primarily this open day is one of the community engagement elements of the plan that they have, and the survey that was offered to people on the day actually only has the ability to send either to hand it in on the day or to actually send it back by email, which would require you to scan both sides. And so there was some upset when people asked for a post office box to be able to send this back. There's no post office box or drop point in Kuranda been set up to actually gather information from this particular survey. So that was rather odd. And there are no specific phone numbers being provided on the website for people. There's only just a generic email address. So it seems like the communication is pretty much one way unless, of course, you go along to one of these open days.
So it certainly was about, I guess, trying to develop a sense of trust between the proponents of the development and people in the community. Do you think that was achieved to any degree, Kathy?
Well, I think that there's probably no recognition that in this community it's all about the conversation, so it needs to be two-way. Relying on the internet here is not good. We've got a reasonable level of barrier. There's sort of an age barrier, and what people are on online don't necessarily have things like scanners. There's a socio-economic barrier here as well. So really, if you're going to survey people, you need to get out there and be actually face-to-face with them in the community. Having an open day will allow people to see the site, but it's still not about, getting out there and listening and being able to respond as well to the issues that are raised, because although there are some issues which they cannot answer just yet because the master planning is still going on and they're doing surveys with experts to help them be able to assess the quantity and volume of amount of rainwater, amount of water in the ground, all that sort of thing, and space that will be taken up by certain elements. There are some things that they could definitely be saying that no, they're not going to be doing that, or yes, that is a possibility that they're looking at. You know how it is, Kia, gossip loves a vacuum.
Yeah.
And it seems to be quite a vacuum.
Okay, Kathy, well, I do appreciate the feedback today. And look, we will also be following up with the proponents as well to get their side of how they felt the actual open day went as well. And perhaps we can put a couple of those other concerns regarding, connections via just normal mail and an actual drop-off point in Kuranda itself to them.